Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. And therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. One of my very first best friends was a guy named Brett Stonecipher, okay? He was in my kindergarten class. We lived just down the street from each other. He was the oldest of three siblings. I was the oldest of three kids, and our siblings were all kind of the same age, right? And we were on the soccer team, and it just kind of became two of those families that just, because of circumstances, they became close, right? And Brett was a good friend of mine. We were on the baseball team, basketball team, any team there was. We were in middle school, elementary school. We went to high school together. And he was one of my best friends and still is a close friend of mine. I remember in the fall, I think it was the week after Thanksgiving break in 2013. I was a freshman at Harding University. And I was sitting in I didn't know it, but I was sitting in my future brother-in-law's dorm room. Bizarre to think that way. Sitting in his dorm room, and I was watching this brand new movie that had just come out. Everyone was raving about it, called Despicable Me. And I was sitting there, and I got this text from my mom, and she said, "Hey, you need to pray for Brooke." Brooke is Brett's youngest sister. She said, "Hey, you need to pray for Brooke because she was just in a kind of a bad car accident." I said, "Oh, okay." And so I prayed for her. We kept watching the movie. Got a call, got another text from her about 30 minutes later, and she said, "Yeah, I think this accident's actually really bad. They're I think they're sending a helicopter in for Brooke." And so I continue thinking about this, and obviously this is kind of ruining the movie now. And a little bit later, my mom calls me, and she says, "Hey, Dad and I are going up to the hospital to go sit with their parents. They were Christian when we were growing up, but then they got they split, they got divorced, and it just I don't know the faith thing in their family just kind of fell apart." And I'm not saying divorced people that's what happens. I'm just saying that's what happened to them. And so they didn't really know anybody, and so my parents are like, "We're going to go up there, we're going to sit and pray with them," but my mom just said "This is really bad." And after they got to the hospital, she texted me back and she said that she is on she's on life support, and they don't think this is going to turn out well. And I got a call from Brett later that day. He was driving home from Mizzou, the University of Missouri in Columbia. He's driving home as quickly as he can, and I just remember I literally couldn't understand a word Brett was saying because he was crying so hard. And that next day was Sunday. It was Sunday morning the next day. And so I go to church, and I'm sitting in communion, and I'm sitting there, and I get a text from Brett. And I look at my phone, and it just says two words. It says, "She's dead." And so I fly home the next day because I'm going to go to the funeral, which is going to be the next weekend. And so I've missed the whole week of school. And so I go home, and I'm sitting at their family table, and all of their family and friends are over, and they look at me and they say, "Hey, Corey, we need you to do the funeral because we don't know anybody else." And I was 19 at the time. I didn't have an internship under my belt. I had no idea what I was doing. Any sermon I had done before, I had just straight up copied from Louis Giglio. I mean, I didn't know anything as to how to do anything. But I just said, okay. And Brooke was this girl we went to a huge high school, much bigger than any high school here. We went to this huge high school, and she was cheerleader captain, very popular person. She was a very popular person. And at this church that they had rented out for this funeral, there was 2,000 people at this funeral. And I remember I was standing there, and I had to think. Well, I thought about it before, but I had to decide, what am I supposed to say? But I remember before I walked up onto the stage, I had this very, very keen sense that God was saying, and kind of hard to put it into words, but basically, if I could try, it'd be "Hey, this is a big opportunity for me, not Corey, God's saying, this is a big opportunity for me. So I said what I said at the funeral. I don't remember what I said. I said what I said, and it was very difficult. And afterwards, we all went to the grave side, and we did the thing. And I tell you, watching their family watch the casket lower into the ground, one of the most haunting things I've ever seen. And then a little while later, eventually, they put up, her tombstone, and that's the story. The anniversary of her death was last week, and so I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking a lot about death lately, as weird as that sounds. I just have. In my office, if has anyone ever been to my office? You should come visit me, okay? You should come visit me in my office. It's just down the hall. All you got to do is come on down the hall, come knock. In my office, I have a bunch of little knickknacks. I'm preaching this week, and I'm preaching next week, and I'm bringing knickknacks with me for a little bit of show and tell, okay? And so in my office, I have a bunch of little knickknacks and things that I set up specifically so that they're kind of like daily reminders of just different things for me. But I remember last spring, I asked Laura McGuire, I said, you know what, you look like someone who could make a tombstone for me. And Laura's like, why not? I'll do it. And so I have this big tombstone in my office, and it's my tombstone. Does anyone else have a tombstone in their office that's their tombstone? No one. You don't have one, Mike? Okay. Anyhow, I've got one in my office. I used it for a retreat last spring, but I liked it and I wanted to keep it. It says, obviously, Corry Stumne, December 12th, 1990, we didn't really predict the death date. That would be a little morbid. But so put some question marks in. It says, Corry was ... right? Isn't this how every tombstone is? Right? It's like there's the birthday, the birth, he lived, dash marks, birthday says he was born, dash mark says he lived, the death date says he died, and then the words is like, somebody said this about him, right? That's what every tombstone is that right? Somebody said this about him. I think a lot of people think that the most important part of a tombstone is those words, right? What did that somebody say about him? But here's the deal, and I'm sure you guys have heard this concept before, but the most important part about a tombstone is not the words that are written on the tombstone, okay? Because those are just words that somebody said, right? And they could be a lie. The most important part about a tombstone is the dash mark, right? Because the words on the tombstone is what some random person said, but the dash mark is what God knows to be true, right? Corry was, but God knows this about him. Are you guys following this, right? Like, the dash is the most important part about the tombstone. It says the most about a person, even though it doesn't say a whole lot, because only God really knows what's in that person's heart. Are you following me so far? And the saddest part about the dash mark is that there's so many people that just waste it, don't they? So many people waste their life. They waste it on career and success and money and ego and status and comparisons and entertainment and sports and pleasure. Give me one of these. Have you ever stood next to somebody on their deathbed? Anybody ever done this before? Right? When you're standing next to someone on their deathbed and they're still, somewhat coherent and they can still kind of talk back and forth a little bit, a lot of times you'll hear them talk about what they regret in life, right? I mean, everyone has regrets. And you might say, well, I'm going to live with no regrets. And I'm going to say, well, you're just a liar. I don't know what to tell you. Like, everyone has deep regrets in life, right? And so sometimes these people talk about some of these regrets. I wish I spent more time with my kids, right? Or I wish I painted more. I wish I did more charity work. It's usually more, right? But you know what? Nobody on their deathbed could have actually done more stuff unless they first made a choice to stop wasting their times on things that in the end didn't matter. Right? You guys are well aware that you don't have time for more stuff. I mean, maybe some of you do, And maybe you're the lucky ones, right? But most of us in here don't have time for more stuff. You can't just start doing a bunch of awesome stuff that makes your life a whole lot better. You have to first stop doing a bunch of stuff that makes your life average. I read a terrifying thing the other day. Parents, close your ears on this one, okay? I read a stat the other day that said the average teenager, for all the teenagers right now, this is hilarious, half of them are staring at their phones right now. 7 hours a day, teenagers stare at a screen. 7 hours a day, that's the average. That just seems like that can't be true. That's what the stat says. 7 hours a day, teenagers stare at their screen. Half of them are doing it right now, right? That's 2,555 hours a year. There's only 8,760 hours in the year. That means that if they continued this, then that means I get teenagers for 7 years at this church. That means a fourth of their time spent in my youth group, a fourth of it would be spent staring at a screen. That includes sleeping, eating, and school. And here's the deal. As we know, a lot of us adults, maybe we're slightly better, but I mean, are you really that much better? My point in the lesson today is don't waste your life. Don't waste your life on stuff that's trivial. Don't waste your life on stuff that makes your life average, because guess what? Your tombstone is coming. Your tombstone is coming. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. You see, the Bible says that your life is numbered, and it's actually going to come to an end very soon. Psalm 90 says, teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. You can't be a wise person if you just think that you're just going good and this won't ever end. The Bible says you can't be a wise person if you don't number your days. Or how about this one? Show me, Lord, my life's end and the number of my days. Let me know how fleeting my life is. You have made my days a mere handbreadth. Of the span of my years is as nothing before you. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. Who's the most secure person in our society right now? Wouldn't the obvious answer be Elon Musk, right? Dude who owns like 5 giant companies, just bought Twitter just because he could, right? He's legitimately actually still kind of a younger guy, like he's got a lot of he's just I mean, I'm not going to say he's likable. Half of you probably really don't like him, but if you do like him, you really like him, and he's very influential. And but you know what? His tombstone's coming. His life's going to be over just like that. And that's not a threat to Elon. It's just a fact. Everyone is but a breath, even those who seem secure. Your tombstone is coming. I'm wondering, what are people going to etch on it? I'm wondering what your dash mark is going to mean. I love this verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. It says, it's better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, for death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart. Why is it better to spiritually go to a house of mourning than one of feasting? Or how about this? Let's put it in modern day language, right? Why is it better for you spiritually to go to a funeral than it is to go to a wedding? Or to go to a birthday party? Why? Well, it's because death levels everybody's playing field. You don't have a lot in common with Elon, I get it, but you both have a tombstone coming, right? In death, it heightens our spiritual senses. That's why when I spoke 10 years ago at this funeral, and there was like 1,500 teenagers in the audience, and they're all out of school for this funeral, it's like I had 10 minutes to where they were actually legitimately going to listen, not stare at their phone, and they might even be attentive. Death heightens our spiritual senses. People are more open to listening and learning at a funeral than I think they are at a birthday party. And so today, together we are going to go to a house of mourning, or at least pretend. All right. Everybody take a really deep breath. Come on, I want to see the chests rise and fall. All right, we're gonna do something together, okay? We're gonna do a little something together. And I know some of you are already getting very nervous about what's about to happen because you don't like it when I get up here and say, all right, we're gonna do something together, okay? But we are. We're gonna do something together, okay? I'm not saying this is gonna be fun. I'm saying this is gonna be good. I'm going to ask all of us in here in just a second, we're going to write our own eulogies, okay? I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to write your own eulogies. And I'm going to give you some guidance up here in just a second. But before I do anything, I wanted to just say something really quick. For all of you in here who right now, who automatically are just thinking, you know what? No, I'm not actually not going to do that, okay? Right? You got that rebellious heart that Joel talked about 4 weeks ago in that sermon. Joel, are you going to do it? Let's see what happens. I'll ask him on Monday, right? But for all of you in here who just want to just kind of tune this part out because you're going to actually have to do something, you can do that. That's fine. But the rest of the sermon is based off of what is about to happen in the next 5 minutes, okay? So if you want to get anything out of this, I want you to just try your best to just do it, okay? Just do it. Just do it. If you got your spouse, you know your spouse ain't about to do this, just nudge them and say, come on, just play along. It'll be fun, okay? No, that's not true. It won't be fun. It'll be good, okay? It'll be good. So we're going to write our own eulogy. So here's what you need to do. You need to grab a pen and you need to grab a paper. If you don't have that, if you want to use your notes on your iPhone, you can do that too. Or right now, Bruce Wilson's going to go ahead and walk down the aisle. Raise your hand if you would like a pen or a paper, because he's going to go ahead and hand those out. And so he's got a bunch of them. Teenagers, every teenager, raise your hand right now. Get a pen, get a paper, okay? Hey, I can't make you do anything. I can't make them do some stuff, okay? So that's what's going to happen. All right, ready? As he's passing stuff out, and I don't know, do people up top need anything? Anybody want some stuff? Raise your hand right now if you want some balcony. We do have some people up in the balcony who would love a pen and a paper. Someone wants to run some stuff up to them. So here's our rules, okay? I'm going to give you about 4 minutes. Here's how you're going to do it. Ready? Start by just kind of writing down the basic facts of your life. Your birthday, your age, your death day. Hey, it's November 20th. We're dying today, okay? We're doing it today, okay? Who's your family, right? Where were you educated? What do you do for a job? Any of that sort of stuff, okay? So write down just kind of the basics right there, okay? Then I want you to write 4 to 6 sentences, and this is the most important part. Are you ready? Please pay attention to this. Write 4 to 6 sentences based on the things that you think the people closest to you would say about you. Not what you once said. Not what you think God would say, this is the real eulogy, right? What you think the people closest to you would write about you. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay. You can include your passions, what you're interested in, what you were known for, all that sort of stuff, okay? I'm going to give you about 4 minutes. Are we feeling good? Okay, I did think about doing Jeopardy music during this, but we didn't. So we're just going to go about 4 minutes of silence. Go ahead and write your eulogy, and I'll see you here in just a few minutes, okay? All right. I appreciate everybody working hard at this. If you are still writing, keep going. Keep going. You can ignore me for a little bit. But I appreciate everybody working hard at this and participating. So here's what I want us to do, okay? This is going to be kind of hard. We're gonna do 3 things all at once, okay? Are you ready for this? In your left hand, I want you to place your eulogy, okay? Place your eulogy in your left hand, okay? Then in your right hand, I want you to place your Bible. Now, if you did your phone, like your phone is your eulogy and it's your Bible, okay? Then grab that Bible in front of you in the pew, right? And pull it out and open up to Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17, okay? So go ahead and put Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17 in your right hand, and then go ahead and put your eulogy in your left hand. We got it, Weston? Okay, you're sharing? Okay, perfect. All right. Up in the top, are we good? All right. We got the thumbs up. All right, so your eulogy is in your left hand. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17 is in your right hand. Then I want you to have your eyes on the screen. So here's what I want you to do. Ready? I want you to roll through, and if you want to go ahead and take a picture of this with your phone, that's fine. If you want to kind of think about this later, might be a great idea to go ahead and snap a picture of this. But I want you to go ahead and roll through some of these questions and answer these questions through the lens of Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17, and answer them about your eulogy. So if you want to right now, you can do that personally yourself. And if you want to go ahead and kind of block me out for the next 3 or 4 minutes as you just kind of answer some of these questions about your own eulogy, that would be totally fine with me. But if you want to listen to me, you can also listen to me as well, okay? So are we ready for this? So our eyes are going to be darting at the screen, back to Ephesians 5, back to our eulogy, back to the screen. It's going to be a little bit of a chaotic, where do I focus? I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go, okay? Let's go through some of these questions. Ready? Is this eulogy actually true? Or is it just what you think people would say about you? And this is kind of tough. Is it actually true, or is it just what people would say about you? Haven't we all been to that funeral where like the person who spoke would just lied the whole time? I'm not trying to make that much of a joke, but it's the dude that you're talking about actually, he wasn't that great a person. He just killed 14 people. Like he's not staring down at us. He's got a little tear in his eye. No, that's not. It's like. He's looking up, I don't know what to say. This is not the great dude. I want to ask you this question. Is your eulogy actually true, or do you think it's just what people would say? Question number 2, does your eulogy suggest that you lived with wisdom? Not just wisdom, but like the wisdom that you read about in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17. Did you actually strive to live with wisdom every day and make the most of every opportunity given to you? Or do you feel like you just squandered every opportunity given to you, right? Does your eulogy suggest that you truly know what the Lord's will is for your life? How about this? Ready? What you think the Lord's will for your life is probably is going to drastically change what's written in your eulogy, right? If you think the Lord's will for your life is for you to be happy and successful, then guess what? Your eulogy is going to talk about that. You were a hard worker, you did great in their career, always had a smile on their face. If you think the Lord's will for your life is that it's all about attending church, then guess what? Your eulogy is going to talk about how attentive you were, how much you served at church, and you did all these things, right? But if you think the Lord's will for your life is for you to be conformed into the image of Jesus and help other people conform into the image of Jesus, then guess what? That's going to be some of that language in your eulogy. Does your eulogy suggest that you truly know what the Lord's will for your life is? And then the last question, does your eulogy live up to the call Christ has placed on your life? I've been telling our teenagers this recently. Jesus doesn't, when Jesus preached, he didn't gain followers. He lost them a lot of the times, right? He lost them a lot of the times. And in fact, Jesus doesn't say, hey, I'm not quite sure, I'm not quite sure if the time is right for you. Jesus actually told a lot of people, he said, you're not worthy of me. That's arrogant language, unless, of course, you're God, right? Does your eulogy actually live up to the call that Christ has placed on your life? Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Therefore, don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. If you can live this way, if you can live in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17 kind of a way, you can almost be guaranteed that the Lord will be extremely proud of your eulogy one day. So the big question is this: how do you actually do this? How do you actually live practically with Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 17 mindset? And I want to just give you this passage is kind of like your launching off point, okay? Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 6. He says, don't store up for yourselves treasure on earth where moth and vermin destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but rather store for yourselves treasure in heaven where moth and vermin don't destroy, where thieves don't break in and steal. Why? For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. San Jose, if you live with the mindset that your daily activities, your passions, your interests, your hobbies, your pursuits, they need to be lived with the purpose of storing treasure in heaven. And if you do that, then I think you will live in that Ephesians chapter 5 mindset. And if you're, because I'm always trying to simplify it a little bit more, if you're not quite sure exactly what it means to store treasure in heaven, how about let's think of it this way, ready? Storing treasure in heaven is simply doing things that matter for all of eternity. Positive things, good things, right? You can do bad things that matter for all of eternity. It's doing things, good things that matter for all of eternity. Think about this, ready? 99% of the things that you do every single day will one day stop mattering forever. One of the messages I love trying to tell our parents, your kids' grades one day will never matter again. You got to stop idolizing it. You've got to stop. Okay? Where you go to college will one day stop mattering. Okay? Your earnings, your grades, your job, your social media, your church attendance records, your status, all of these things one day will stop mattering, but there are a few things that you can do, a few ways that you can conduct yourself that will never stop mattering no matter what. Did you actually love the people that you were around? Did you care about the poor? Did you actually disciple your kids, or did you just drop them off in class? Did you daily submit to your spouse? Did you do the spiritual disciplines to grow in your relationship with the Lord? These things will never stop mattering, and these are ways that you can store treasure in heaven. I want to finish our sermon, and I want to be done, but I want to give you one more knick-knack, okay? This is a golden spigot. Everyone say, ooh. Yeah, the golden spigot, okay? I keep this in my office. Some of our teenagers have seen this and asked me about this. I keep it on my shelf, okay? Why? It's because it's a beautiful reminder of my daily situation. This is a real spigot. I bought it on Amazon. It really works. Water really runs through it. It really does turn off if you do that. It really will connect. If anybody wants a golden spigot for your hose, let me know. I can get you the link, okay? It works perfectly. But because it's not connected to a greater source, it's useless. Hear me out. I'm not saying that it's worthless. It is a golden spigot after all. The spigot's not worthless, but it is, in its current situation, useless. The same is true for you today. God has called you to live in a very careful sort of way, a wise sort of way, making the most of every opportunity that he's given you. He has called you to a great calling, one where if you live up to it, your eulogy sure is to be an awesome one when people hear about it. He's called you to make your dash on your tombstone actually count for something and have a lot of meaning. He's asked you not to waste your life. He's asked you to daily understand what his will is. He's called you to store treasure in heaven and focus on things that will matter for eternity. But friends, you simply are not good enough to do that. You are not a skilled enough Christian. You will not do any of those things if you cannot figure out how to connect yourself to the source of life. You won't be worthless. Every single human being on this planet has immense worth. You won't be worthless. But in his kingdom, you will be useless. If you cannot figure out how to connect yourself to the vine, your life will one day be spiritually fruitless, and your dash mark on your tombstone will amount to nothing. Nothing that counts anyways. And so San Jose, for the sake of God and for the sake of his kingdom, please don't waste your life. Please don't waste your life. Please don't waste your life. Okay? Don't waste your life. I don't know what else to say. Don't do it. Okay? Your tombstone is coming, guys. It's coming very soon. Don't waste your life. You cannot continue to just sit in a pew and think that that's what God's called you to. There's a lot of us in here who live that way. You cannot do that. God has called you to a great thing, not an average thing. Going to church is an average thing. God's called you to participate in his kingdom. And guess what? You will not be able to do that if you refuse to get connected. Don't waste your life. Let's make it count. Dave?
Thanks, Corey. So before we stand and sing, one of the best things that you can do to connect your life to the power source this holiday season, as many of you are gathering around for Thanksgiving, is realize that God has been the source and giver of every good thing that you're celebrating. And as we end out today and kind of move into the Thanksgiving holiday, we want to kind of leave you focused on what God can bring to your life, how he already has. And this is a season where we get to join together with family and be thankful. So let's stand together. We're going to sing this last song to close out today. And we hope that all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And we hope to see you after to begin the Christmas season next week. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. And give you peace. And give you peace. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And be gracious. The Lord be gracious, gracious unto you. Amen. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next week.